So, previously, the group of you were, pardon me, returned to Elderthorn after the events and surprise betrayal by Mayor Teidel, followed quite swiftly afterwards by her untimely demise. The group of you have nothing but fallout in your path now. You found a longboat that was used to row out to a small sort of tidal cavern that had winded and twisted up through the rock into the structure that you had found the mayor previously. And you used this longboat to return rather than trying to trailblaze through the Pinwood over the course of about a day and a half to Elderthorn. You avoided directly interacting with a Gnome Depot vessel that was leaving port as you rode into the bay. But upon your arrival, you parlayed a little bit with the Tanners before acquiescing and trading your boat for your allowance to dock there. You alerted Blackburn Watch. And more directly, Captain Brath Stormsurge of the transpiring of events since he had last seen the group of you in the light of Aeolus's burning home. A usually stalwart and reserved individual, he was visibly concerned by your account of events. Even though you did leave some out. You then returned to the town proper. The investigation continued. You went to Mayor Teidel's home at great insistence from Aeolus to look around, just check in on her and Nara. Willem collected gifts that he had requisitioned for everyone to be distributed at a later time. And Helaras spoke with Gogrun. Within Teidel's home, the Stormsurge, Siegfried, Aeolus, and one member of the Watch that Stormsurge had brought from the keep have entered and poked about some. In the basement, Siegfried and Stormsurge found a sigil sequence upon the ground, very much structured similarly to that which you had found deep within the Pinwood. Seems to be a permanently inscribed circle of teleportation here. On the upper floor, you found Nara, the mayor's daughter, who the last about 10 months has been isolated entirely from the community under what appears to be now the guise of illness to obfuscate her illegitimate pregnancy. For her own protection, she believed. But she had been shackled to her room. She's not seen her mother in days. She asked about how come Lander hasn't come to visit, and the group of you were left to break the news to her. You've determined that you don't suspect Stormsurge was in on anything, and the full tale came out to him. And he agreed that better to not have the full tale come out to the entire town. At least not right away. You've left Nara in his capable care and returned to the Faded Gate Inn, where Willem has passed out a collection of patches that he has had made for the group of you to commemorate your fellowship. The evening passes in comfort. You're quite well off money-wise, although some of the coins might draw eyes as to where you got them. The evening's been spent comfortably. You've rested, recovered, and gained a milestone where you each picked up another feat. And as we all wake following morning, what are your plans?
Well,
I can.
Oh,
I was going to say. I was just going to say I consider Aeolus to be our strategizer and our leader, so I would just ask him what we're going to do next.
Oh no, I don't want this responsibility. Aeolus,
Always can jump in if you want. I've got some experience with leading people.
you know what, Dunnan, you can take the reins on this.
Great.
I am going to go pick through the remains of my home really quick.
Yeah, you got this, Danny. I'm gonna cook brekkie.
It sounds like a good idea. Let's go down to Buka and order some breakfast. Get our mouths full and then let's go and visit those hag or whatever she's called.
I'm sure she's a nice lady.
Matron
Yeah.
Toadtooth?
Yeah, that
Yep.
one.
Matron Toadtooth.
Bet you she doesn't smell good, but it is what it is.
Before we leave, we should also gather any supplies that we need to.
We're gonna need rations. But at least I got a nice new tent. Thank you.
Didn't the captain say he will provide for our journey?
He did.
My pleasure.
Sure. But at least we should collect those supplies before we leave.
Yeah, we should bring her a gift.
What gift do you bring a hag? A doll? A voodoo doll? Bones?
I mean, I would think it's probably difficult to get metal work out there.
She might want something pretty.
I always thought hags like children. They're very friendly, I hear. We could bring them
Oh.
a child.
Oh, that's great. We'll bring her you.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Oh,
we'll offer you.
that's not what I. Oh, okay. You do know I'm not a child anymore, right?
We
Yeah.
do, but
Are you asking them if they know, or are you asking them if you are actually a child and you're not sure?
Oh, I'm not a child. But you know.
Yeah.
One of the numbers who you do not like that much? I mean,
Oh well, I don't really care for most of them.
Oh,
But-
jeez. I'm leaving.
Just-
They all have their functions. Unfortunately, they're all designated work.
so they would be
Oh.
missed.
how
They're all
about
lazy.
this?
But
Why don't we all buy something that we would give to our own grandmothers? And we'll see which gift she likes best.
I got a great sword to spare.
I'm going to go buy a very pretty shawl,
Okay.
wherever that would be.
You would know of a few people, at least in the Market March, as that's a lot of the sort of crafts people that are members of families that work in other capacities, but then have a goodly portion of their day still available. Especially this time of year, as you
Right.
just come out off of winter, when there's not been farm work, the families usually keep themselves occupied throughout the long winter in a variety of other ways, such as knitting, basket weaving, cloth making, things like that. So you could easily find a well-made shawl.
There it is. We'll see what she likes.
Mark off
Yeah, how much did that cost me?
10 silver
10 silver? You
Yeah.
got it.
or 1 gold. What coins are you paying with?
Silver.
Okay, you are pulling out silver coins. Got it.
Yes.
Easily acquired. Anyone else?
Siegfried would just try and buy her some like metal tools, like maybe some metal cookware and perhaps like an axe.
Like a wood cutting axe?
Yeah, like a wood cutting axe,
Okay.
some like knives, maybe like a metal pot for cooking, just like stuff she may need to come into town to get.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you would head up to Amber Braid Armorers?
Yeah.
Certainly. Let me move you guys to Elderthorn map. So you head up to the Hammer in Hand at Amber Braids, where Andre's actually at this time of day just currently opening up. You can see he's sort of like walking in as you're walking up. Here's the chime of the door as you come in behind him. Yes. How you doing, Siegfried?
Good morning, Andre. Can I help you with anything?
It's an alright morning.
Anything? I see you're opening up.
I'm good. What'll it be? You're not usually here this early.
No, looking for a gift. Visiting a old relative that kind of stays out of town. Was thinking of bringing her some metal things that she may need. You know, knives, axe head, maybe a pot. You know.
I got travel cookware. There's a small uh, oven over there. He points out a small sort of cast iron. It's
Ooh,
like Dutch oven style.
I think that might work.
It looks like it weighs about maybe 2 pounds. With the lid. It's probably about 6 inches in diameter. And it's not very large, but probably meant to be able to be packed as well.
Yeah, I will.
That's the closest thing I got to a cook pot.
That's great, Andre. How much for the cook pot and the cookware?
For that and set of knives, mark you 12 silver.
Sure. And I hand him over to the silver specifically.
Oh, just something I noticed. And alright, it was partially Emil's idea, but I came up with it too. Check this out. He goes behind the counter. Then I thought you and your friends would get a weird twist kick out of this. And he pulls out a spearhead. Yes, check this. And he douses it in a little oil bath nearby, and then rubs a cloth over it, and you can see there's like sort of a pockmarked patterning about it. As so, I went out and cut some of the trees in the pinwood with this. You and your friends bringing the axe heads back, and your spear. Made me think if there was anything else that we might be able to do, especially if stuff like that happens again. So rather than trying to sort of melt it and reforge it and lose a little bit of shape, or grind it down, I mean, it's not cheap, but this, and he sort of wiggles the spear tip at you, has been dipped into liquid silver. To let it set into all the pockmarks that gets made because of the sap. So it it kneels onto it and sort of really holds fast on. Now, of course, it's not the same as like a forged bond, but it's not as heavy. The tip, it's not as heavy as pure silver, and it's not as difficult to make as like a truly like alloy. It's just coated, like patched with the silver. I don't know how strong it'll stand up, but looks pretty good, right?
Yeah, it seems like you need someone to test it.
He tosses you the spirit. Sure, test it. Let me know if it breaks or chips out on anything.
Sure. Well, we're probably going to be pretty close to the logging camp. If I run into Emil, is there anything you want me to give him? Tell him?
Tell him he's a fucking idiot.
I mean, of course.
No, other than that, it'll be fine.
Okay. Well, stay safe. Hope business goes well today. I'll see you around.
Should be. Oh yeah. Leave.
Yep.
All right. Anyone
And
else?
I
have
would probably just find Dunnan and give him the spearhead.
Well,
Dunnan,
what's that?
Andre was trying out something new. Apparently, this was one of the damaged spearheads from the pinwood. It's been
Oh.
covered in silver. He said maybe we could test it out, see if it works.
Hmm.
Not sure how good it'll be, but I figured you'd want to try it.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, it has to wait because we are not venturing into the pinwood, but sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Willem would rather not try to get it from home, from Dawes, two grandmothers or two mothers, but would be looking for strong grain liquor and tobacco for chewing.
Okay. You're getting this from your
Dawes,
house?
Maz. Well, I don't know if I want
Ooh,
to take.
smart.
I don't know how much I want to take from their stash. They're, pretty
sure.
tough women. But,
Make
I would
me-
much rather buy some.
Okay, so you could easily purchase some. Or did you want to purchase some and take some? Like, what sort of split are you looking for?
Well, I guess my idea is that I would like to purchase some, and it's always a good idea to bring some home to Daz Maz.
Okay, so
because
purchase some and a little bit extra to leave at home.
yeah,
Understood.
because
Got it.
you just don't fuck with them.
Got it.
Sure.
Mark off 10 silver's worth for each, and then you could separate out half of that to leave for your parents.
Can do. I was gonna say because they're pretty rough and tumble women. They could probably get into a beard contest with Dunny's mother.
All right. Yeah. Easily acquired from Market Marsh though, as well. Those would be, well, the alcohol a lot of people have available for purchase. The tobacco, however, would be you would end up purchasing it from one of the sellers on behalf of Gnome Depot, as it's imported.
I will toss it on my list, and
Yeah.
half of it would have gone home.
Sounds good. All right.
You have to placate your elders.
Alright, Aeolus does not need to go there. Candles and soap, Dunnan, of course.
Like
Uh,
5 soap and 3 can 5 candles, 3 soap.
Sure, mark off 2 silver.
Sure. Cool.
The soap's not hard to acquire. You do have limestone cliffs less than a day's walk away from you. Lime is not difficult to come by in Elderthorn. Very easily. Okay. Your acquisitions collected. What does the rest of the day shape up for you? How does it shape up?
Well, we need to go collect our supplies from Storm Surge, and then I think we can head out, right? Then
Yes. I think about midday we would head out as also acquiring everything we need and then
and
head out on midday.
I wanted to ask if it's possible we could stop by my mom's. I think it's going to be on the way, right, Spencer?
It will not, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, never mind.
So I just move you guys to the main map. Venturing up along the Troll Run, the Lisette logging camp is here. It's about 45 miles upriver. Based on what Storm Surge has indicated to the group of you, you then need to travel into this valley here. So you're looking at about 60 miles of overland travel. Probably 3 good days of travel.
How much would it put us out of the way to stop at Siegfried's parents?
They are. Oh, there's my measuring tool. They are halfway to the mining camp to the west. So they're
Oh, okay.
they're there. They're due west of Elderthorn. No, you could and try to follow the Cobalt stream up. The stream does disappear underground during sections of its run that feeds into Cobalt Lake. But so the risk of losing your way in the wilderness is a little bit higher. If you do that, it will put you. So if you travel this way, it's about 20. We'll call it about 20 leagues, so 60 miles. If you travel to parents and then northward, you're looking at say 25 leagues, so about 75 miles. So you'd be adding about another day's worth of travel, roughly.
Elorest would say that sounds like a clusterfuck and wouldn't be on board.
Yeah, I want to check out the logging camp too. So we'll just follow the river.
Gotcha. Yeah, you would hard miss the logging camp if you went to Siegfried's parents.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we can hit them on the way back, but not there.
Okay.
So is the plan that the group is going to head to Blackburn after their acquisitions of all their supplies?
I believe so, and then we can leave from there.
Okay.
Yes.
Then, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Aeolus is going to start his morning at his house and is just going to see what he lost, what is still there. Because
Okay.
he may have to borrow stuff from Blackburn.
Okay. Go ahead and give me an investigation check, Aeolus, please. There we go. All right. Investigation. All right. As you're looking through, you do find your shield. The shield itself, the only part that needs to be replaced is some leather straps, that you use to affix it to your forearm. easily done and sort of dropped off at the keep if you need to. And you can grab another one in the meantime. You do also find about half of your alchemist supplies kit. So reacquiring that would cost you half as much.
Okay.
You do find the skull and the hind leg and tail of the exoskeleton of the needle monster. Both of which survived. Additionally, with a 19, you find a bunch of various metal fastenings and things of that sort. One thing that sort of catches your eye is a metal hinge that you're pretty sure you had on your wardrobe that looks mangled.
Okay.
Like it's been bent out of shape. Not sure how it ended up bent out of shape, but it just seems queer to the damage that everything else has sustained.
Okay. I grab everything and then I head over to Kogron's to repurchase, and I'll just put into the Roll20 chat what I purchase.
Okay. If you use gold or platinum, let me know.
Yep.
And I believe there's a Gogron's purchase handout also of things that can be acquired. Some of which you can acquire also, like such as your bedroll and things like that. You can acquire from Blackburn Keep without cost.
Okay.
And anything that would be like supplying out for a journey, you could get from them as opposed to from Gogron.
Okie doke. And I see that Kogron doesn't have like the herbalism kit and
It is
the
not.
alchemist kit.
Not currently, no.
Okay. Alright, awesome. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Like, I assume you have, like, a small traveling alchemist's sort of set for your own use of things, but not really for, like, identifying things and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Alright.
My entire laboratory was just wrecked.
No.
Destroyed.
Probably fueled a fire really well.
Yep.
Alright. The group of you supply with Blackburn Watch, and around high noon head out north along the Choral Run. Unless there's anything else anyone has to do in town.
Nope.
Okay. I would like one of you to roll me a d12 as you progress.
I'll go first.
Alright.
Just as an aside, Helarast is going to go actually say goodbye to Gogron and tell him where we're going.
Noted. Ooh, big 12. Done. Nice. Okay. First part of the day, well, first part of your travel of the second half of the day, goes comfortably. The weather holds. Seems like it did turn into a good day. The Choral Run is a sort of constant din, but it's kind of welcome after having spent so much time traveling through the Pinwood in that eerie silence where all sound seems to get deafened. Having this constant presence of sound makes it feel more open, even though you're walking under trees and whatnot. The day flies by. You make good time. The banks hold, and you don't encounter any wildlife. Any wildlife that would be untowards to you. You all make camp. You find a comfortable sort of glade in which to set bedrolls, tents, and settle in for the evening. Anyone have anything particular that they wanted to cover that evening before moving on to the next day?
Some
Nope.
bantering, I guess, before the bed. So what Annan would ask, what do you think are they trying to do, whoever is going to try something? Bring something back, get more powerful? I still can't get any ideas what they are going to do. Why would you sacrifice a baby?
The heart was a component in a ritual. So
It's disturbing to me because Mayor Teidel doesn't seem to be the kind of person who would do evil things. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if she felt forced to do this for some greater good.
You
I
would
mean,
be very surprised at what people are capable of.
Oh, well, no, I'm not surprised at all, but it's still, I'm not 100% convinced that she was just evil through and through. There was some kind of motivation. I don't know what it is.
well, that
That's
I
all.
mean,
doctor was covering for her, but she still
Yeah.
ended up dying in the end. That doctor had to know that Nara wasn't pregnant,
Oh, yeah.
and she lied for Tadel for months, but then at the last second she was killed. And
Yeah, that doesn't
Well,
seem right either.
so you also have to think Mayor Teidel having an only child, and her and Lander, or her and the Coldworthies being very staple names of Elderthorn. If their children were to be with child before any sort of official ceremony, the rumors would fly, and it would just be an overall headache. So it was smart on their part to hide it for her being under the weather.
Oh, yeah, but
Other than
everything
that,
else is. Other than that, yeah, nothing else was necessary for that.
the
I mean, they didn't need to chain her to a bed.
Nope.
no. But it also
Right.
makes me think if Mayor Teidel couldn't trust Nara.
Yeah.
Not sneak out, to not run to try to go see Lander, and that's why she was chained. Or to want to see her child, because Mayor Teidel required the child.
She seemed a little baffled by everything. Like maybe she was, we didn't do any kind of detect magic. I wonder if she was spellbound in some way.
No, I
Because if
I had detect magic going. I
Oh,
didn't.
oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other two definitely had magic going on with them, but
She didn't.
I mean, besides the spells that you had, and also when we were in town, I cast detect magic around her multiple times, even before the fight. I didn't sense anything weird.
Okay. We
well,
were
she must
talking
have
about
been good
Nara.
at hiding stuff because she just started like half a year ago, and she has been a mayor for 6. So
Well,
something or someone must have approached her at some point.
Someone specifically hired those elves, right? That's months of travel and work.
Mm-hmm.
They came. It's not like they came here and then were hired. They came to Elderthorn and then immediately started their job. So they must have been contacted either on the ship itself or before they even decided to embark on the voyage.
So many mysteries still unknown. Well, hopefully the hag will shed some light onto this whole mess.
Maybe just hold off from calling her a hag until we do some confirmation.
That's wisdom.
Okay. The night passes. I'm assuming you're setting watch. Comfortably. The stars wheel overhead with a clear sky. Moon's slowly waning. Morning comes all too soon. And the next leg of your journey. I'd like another person to roll a d12 for me.
I can do it.
Six. One moment. Okay. What starts out to be a decent morning is slowly plagued by what appears to be a slight drizzle. As the morning draws into afternoon, it stays steady and doesn't seem to break, though thankfully it doesn't get too much worse. I'd like a perception check from all of you with disadvantage, please.
Wow, that was a bad roll.
Yeah. That's okay. Siegfried's still carrying that, though. About mid-afternoon, Siegfried. 3, 4-ish. You're not sure. Tough to tell. You do find a set of tracks that seems to be... they came up to the Choral Run, milled about some, and then left back west. These are humanoid tracks. They look like heavy boots. Definitely medium-sized individuals, and definitely not lightweights. It's tough to tell number, because you're not sure if multiple tracks were taken by the same individual or individuals, or if each set approaching is one single instance. Based on that, it's anywhere between 6 to about 16 people.
Oh, wow.
You just notice this sort of weird, muddy area that was sort of trampled down, and with that perception roll, you recognize where they were before the rain destroyed them.
Does it seem like these people were like armored?
You don't see any indication of like greaves or any armored boots of any sort, but that's not that unusual. A full set of armor like that is quite uncommon. These look to be very heavy boots at the very least.
Maybe one of the tribes.
Possible. I mean, what do you think, Aeolus? Should we follow the tracks? It doesn't lead to the logging camp.
Is it one of the orc tribes up here?
I mean,
Gogron said that most of the tribes are much further north this time of the year.
Much further north. Okay.
but I mean,
It
it's
seems a little bit too many for a hunting party.
yeah.
So
What do you think, Aeolus?
I think we. I'm sorry. Wow, words are difficult. Yes, yes, yes. As easy as that is to say, yes. We should definitely follow to see what this is, who they are, and if they pose any threat.
You have about another 2.5 hours of daylight, even though it's sort of this gray, steady drizzle. It's still brighter out.
Yeah, I would at least try and figure out the direction they went after they left the riverbank.
I will help with that, and then we can bed down so that we're not walking in the dark.
Okay. So how long do you want to commit to trying to follow these? Like until it's dark?
I think so, right, Aeolus?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. I'd like the two of you to give me survival checks, please.
All right. I am going to go into my dragon form.
That lasts for 10 minutes?
An hour.
An hour? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let me double check.
I believe it's because it's not the same duration as regular wild shape.
Let me double check. There's so many things on my sheet now. Oh, I was totally checking the wrong thing. Apologies. Starry form. That's wild shape. Sorry.
That's wild shape. 10 minutes. Yep. Form lasts for 10 minutes. It ends early if you dismiss it, are incapacitated, die, or use the feature again.
Alright, let me double check. Alright, I will just use enhance ability then. Owl's Wisdom. Because that
Okay.
does last an hour.
That does, yes. Okay. So you enhance your own ability. So you get to make the survival check with advantage.
Yep.
Scroll all the way up and find Aeolus's. All right.
Yeah.
12.
12. Sorry about that.
All good. And 17. Okay. The slight drizzle is starting to erode these tracks. You're not sure how old they are. Maybe a day or two. At best guess. Some of the finer details have already been lost, but you do manage to stay on track of them for the better part of the next 90 minutes to 2 hours. As you're going, Willem, are you still continuing to forage?
I would, yes.
Alright, I need you to make me a nature check, please.
What about a nurture check instead?
Nope. Alright. While you're sort of wandering along, sort of keeping an eye on them, you reach out and you find a very beautiful looking plant. Looks like a tree trunk. It's about 3 feet in height and like has a good diameter around it. It has like these weird barbs growing off out of like small alcoves on it. And then out of the top of this stump, there's branches, and a few of these where it seems like maybe these barbs turned into branches at some point, and they sort of fan out like a regular top of a tree would into these vaguely heart-shaped red leaves. It's quite an interesting plant. You don't recognize it though. You just catches your eye about 10 feet off the trail. All in total, it's probably about 5 feet, 6 feet in height.
Okay. Who would be the other people that would be equally good or perhaps better at plant-like stuff?
Aeolus has herbalism, doesn't he?
I am not trained in herbalism.
Ah. You just have the kit.
Siegfried
Yes.
is, but I don't
I
have.
would. Oh, I just probably would have just snagged whoever between Aeolus and Siegfried was closest and said, "Isn't it beautiful? It looks like a trap. I'm gonna check it out."
Actually, Hellerast has herbalism.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get closer to this strange-looking plant.
Yeah, right after I say it's probably a trap, and I go right in.
Nice, I like it. All right. Uh,
Aeolus is gonna smack Willem one of these days.
you're still sort of trying to find where the next set of tracks go.
Yep.
Um,
That's all I heard was, "Oh, this looks like a trap."
Yeah. Turn around. Willem's walking away from the trail. Willem, you come up close to this thing. The trunk of it's about 3.5 feet of its height in total. Definitely the majority of it. As you get closer, though, you hear like a snapping twig. You look underneath your foot. Looks like you've stepped and snapped on like some root that was sort of arched out of the ground towards the base of the tree. This sort of plant. At this snapping sound, I need you to make me a dexterity saving throw, please.
And
Yeah. Quick on your feet, Willem. Especially on the. This thing looks like a trap. You quickly sort of sidestep instinctively, like worried that like you hurt something, damage something, or whatever. And going through this spot where you were just standing, about the height of your navel, and impacting the ground about 3 feet behind you, is a barb that has a thin sort of piece of this same root that you just snapped, trailing behind it, leading to one of the holes from the tree.
so is this? I guess I'd have to look into it, but is this a trap made by somebody, or is the plant actually?
It looks like the plant just shot a barb at you.
I think Willem would have probably elbowed whoever's close, maybe Hellerast, maybe Siegfried, and said, "See, I told you it looked like a trap. Let's look into this. It's neat."
Anyone who has proficiency in nature can make a nature check.
I do.
Okay,
I
go
think
ahead.
we should harvest one of these shooty things.
Yeah, I would pick up the one that got shot.
Okay. As you pick it up, Hellerast, and now that Willem has sort of seen what it does, sort of rack your brain. You've heard about these types of plants previously, although you've never found one in the wilderness. They're supposedly quite rare. This is known as a harpoon plant. Here's a handout. These can grow quite massive, sometimes 20, 30 feet in total height. There's a few different varieties of them, but these are usually harvested, generally to their own death, for the barbs that they fire, to be used in the process of tipping crossbow bolts and harpoons. As it's a naturally buoyant, tipped piece of material, so they make excellent spearfishing harpoons, because what better than to stab the fish and then have the fish naturally float to the surface, because your harpoon is entirely buoyant.
Nice.
So they're rare for that purpose, because a lot of them get killed.
So would we try to go ahead and harvest a few? Shield at the ready?
You
And
can
try to trigger a couple others?
you can certainly attempt to.
Yeah, I think you got that covered, Elrest.
Sure. Go ahead and roll me a d4 to start with, please.
If
Okay. You see that there's, from what it looks like, 2 barbs that currently aren't fired as of yet. Like, they've not been sprung and launched towards any potential piece of prey. You feel like you could probably safely trigger one of them if you didn't want to risk the plant dying.
okay,
So, go ahead and make
well,
me
trigger
a
it.
go ahead and make me a dexterity saving throw with advantage since you're doing it intentionally.
While Helly is doing that, I'll also look for other plants in the area. I feel like something like this, other interesting things might grow underneath it for protection.
It's possible. Go ahead and make me an investigation check, Willem. Hellrest, carefully sort of use the tip of your haft of your spear to sort of tickle one of these cables that's been stuck into the ground a few feet away from the base of the sort of trunk of the thing. And as you do, you watch the sort of barb sort of readjust slightly to where the thing like that shift was, and then spring forward with a thunk sound as it lands in the ground. And you can very carefully take the time to sever that cable now that the only other barb is on the far side of the trunk and not able to shoot at you. So it does not release itself as you sever, and you do harvest 2 barbs. One of them looks a little bit damaged. It might only get 1 or 2 good uses, but the one that was just fired is pristine.
Okay. Put that in my resources.
I find the neatest things, don't I? Maybe with that we can catch some fish for dinner.
All right.
Alright,
So
I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
add the-
Yeah, go ahead and add harpoon plant barb to your inventory.
Yeah.
And it's about the barb that got shot at you is about 3 inches long, has one sort of hooked tooth backwards that would prevent it being removed from any sort of impacted wound or anything like that. And then has a sort of a conical depression in it that could be used to fit in a haft of any type of spear, or javelin weapon.
Okay.
Then Willem, taking a look around the area, careful not to trigger the harpoon plant again. There's a noticeable clearing of ground cover nearby. Very short grasses still grow up to about the base of it, but most of the area seems to be covered in debris of the forest floor. There's decomposing leaves, things like that. It seems like the type of environment that you would expect mushrooms to grow sort of well, although you don't find any in that space, about 6-foot radius around the plant itself. There's no noticeable curious plants nearby. There's things that you do recognize. There's a few small bushes. There's some creeping vines. There's it's not a lot, truthfully, that
Yeah, fair.
seems out of place, that you haven't seen throughout their journey up to this point.
Oh, it's worth a shot.
All good. The By the time that you've the two of you have sort of figured this thing out, those of you looking at the trail, you've determined the next sort of path. You're not sure how far these tracks continue to go away from the troll run. Are you going to continue to follow? You're about a half hour from sundown.
I don't know. I'm curious now, Aeolus.
I am too, but I don't think we should continue to follow if it's going to risk exhaustion.
Sure. Well, let's make camp here, and if we can find it in the morning, we do. If not, we go back.
Well, if we've traveled this far, are they really any threat to us anyway? Or are we just getting distracted?
True.
Well, I think personally my biggest worry is if it's a group this large and if it's a hunting tribe or something else that Elder Thorn is unaware of. I just want to make sure they're friendly and not a threat.
Understood.
Okay. You make camp in a wet fashion, but camp it is.
Aeolus, before he heads down, will take 4 silver pieces and place it on like the knot of a tree or a rock and offer it to the kami of the woods for hopefully the tracks not being completely washed away overnight.
Okay.
And of course also thanking them for allowing us to travel through.
Okay. The quiet evening passes with the sound of smattering rain finally starting to fade late in the night. You each take your watches comfortably. You eat your rations, probably made a little bit better by Willem's efforts. Alyssa, during your watch, you can't shake the feeling that you're being watched. Sort of glance around. Notice your offering that you left out is gone.
Okie doke.
And turn to sitting and waiting. Presently, a gray, cloudy, but dry morning breaks for the group of you.
Ellerast would like to cast augury to see if we should pursue this side quest or not.
Okay. So the augury is continuing to pursue the footprints, like Wheeler Well.
Or going back to the river and heading to the camp.
Okay. Yes. Well, so augury isn't. You don't present the either or for augury. You present.
Well, but that would be inferred.
Yeah. You present one course of action, and only that course of action will get Wheeler Road. And then you could take that course of action or any other course of action, but just because one course of action could end up wheel or woe doesn't mean the other one will end up the other option, so to speak.
Correct.
Like, they could both be woe, they could both be wheel, you'd never know.
Right.
Unless you cast the spell twice, but then there's a chance of failure. Or false readings. Alright, so go ahead and drop the description into the chat, please.
Okay, my computer is currently beach balling,
Uh,
and I can't get to it.
1 sec.
Don't ever get a Mac. Sorry. Here we go. Well, beach balling, but I can. Come on. Talk amongst yourselves.
While you're doing that, everyone else is sort of packing up the camp.
Mm-hmm. I clicked 3 times. It's probably going to pop up 3 times. Sorry about that.
No worries. There we go. Yep,
Oh.
there we go. It all just came in. All right. Assuming that you're only casting it once.
Yes.
Augury. All right. So as you sort of cast the bones that you use for this spell, thinking about the decision to follow the tracks, you very clearly read "woe" in the bones.
So
Well,
I'll tell everybody. Hey guys, don't know how you feel about this stuff that I do, but the bones are telling me do not pursue. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bad call.
well,
Take that as you will.
So we might get some action? Oh, great.
That's
Gun is
probably
rubbing
not
his
the way
hand.
I'd put it, but
I don't think action is the way that her ancestors look upon it.
mm-mm. And this is woe for orcs, folks. So
Yeah, yeah.
take that into consideration.
Well, then we head back up towards the logging camp. I have to speak with Amber Parade anyway if he's there.
Sounds good.
Not too bad, but alright. Whatever.
All right.
Don't worry. We'll probably come across something to sink our weapons into.
Why, I do hope so.
Never hope for a fight.
Yeah,
Why?
no.
You afraid?
I'd prefer none of us to be carried back in one of Siegfried's tents.
Don't you worry, you got me. Nothing's gonna happen.
He's
Nah.
got a waxed tarp now anyway.
I mean, there isn't a bounty on Dunnan's body, so not sure it'd be worth carrying him back. Siegfried says,
The group of you turn mostly west, a little bit north, trying to cut off part of the trail on the way back to the Choral Run. And over the course of the gray morning, you make it to the Lisette logging camp a little bit before noon. The way that you travel. Fairly comfortable travel. It seems like the woods open up before you as you go. Small bit of trailblazing, not an issue. As you come into the logging camp, you're met with a variety of sounds. You hear it prior to sort of seeing most of it. There's, in the camp proper, seems to be about a half dozen individuals currently working. You hear shouts. You hear the sound of a heavy saw being passed through wood, and the sound, just the sounds of busyness, just a constant din, sort of calling through and cutting through the surrounding area. As you round sort of this patch of woods, and find a walled compound set by looks like a mix of some local boulders that are sort of set along one side of the Troll Run, and then between the boulders, sections of upright tree trunks, each not more than probably about 6 to 7 inches in diameter, have been sort of lashed together and then sharpened into spikes to make walled sections in between the boulders to create a defended compound. There's a set door into the lower level that's quite large. It's arched and about 8 feet wide. Heavy drag marks in the dirt and mud in between give like this sort of grooved underpinning to the point where when the door closes, there's probably still about a 2-foot gap underneath the door because of how much of the mud and dirt has been dragged through this space and dragged away. But it's currently open, and through this is where most of the sound is coming from.
Is this regular logging camp sounds?
Yeah, it seems to be.
Yeah. Okay.
Do the walls, like the walls they've set up, do they appear damaged at all?
They do not. They're about 12 feet in height, and that like each of this trunks that is used to make it is sharpened to a spike that's about 10 inches in total, like from where the sides of the trunk start tapering in towards the spike. So they're not super sharp spikes. They're definitely built for durability as opposed to like sharp spears.
More just like standard camp security versus something they like set
Yeah,
up
no.
under...
Looks to be standard security.
Yeah.
Especially higher up in the wilderness here.
I apologize in advance. My father may not treat you very well because of your acquaintance with me, but here we go. And Siegfried starts walking into the cab.
You push in one at a time. As you do hear some call, "Hold there! What are y'all doing?" My beard. Siegfried, is that you? As you're looking about, Siegfried, you see a familiar-looking dwarven man. That's sort of raised his hand in greeting to the group of you. Would you like to describe him?
Sure. I think I had a picture way back. Let me see if I can find it. But Bugram is just a dwarf. He has the distinct amber braids, but he's definitely more like Dunnan. He's very obviously a more like a fighter. Probably has some tattoos on his hands and stuff. He would most likely probably be here because of security. Those in town, Aeolus and Willem and Hellerast might know him as kind of a scoundrel when he was in Elderthorn, but he's been Siegfried's friend since they were children. So he'd be like, "Bugram, let us in."
Yeah, already, and the door is fucking open. Look.
Oh, by the way, Andre says you're an idiot. They start coming.
It doesn't sound like Andre. That's much too clean. Well, come on in. You're right in the middle of the workday. Not great timing. What can I do for you? It's not used to seeing you up here.
It's been a while.
It's been like 3 weeks. Shut your face.
We're actually here on some watch business.
Watch
He
business.
sighs a little bit. I think Aeolus probably should speak with my father. And then
He's not about at the moment. He's up in the mountains.
oh.
They're clearing another field.
When he says out of the mountains, would that be on our way to the witch or in a different direction?
They'd be further up the Churro Run, so more
Okay.
north.
All right. Well, then,
Uh, as you sort of like have that look in front of you, they're the field that they used towards the end of last year, before the snow set them in. We've already finished clearing it, so they're filling a bunch more, carefully, hopefully, and getting ready to throw into the run, bring them down here. Sort of does like a hard sniff, and like hawks a pretty nasty looking spit on the ground.
Secrets. Well, we have to head west.
I mean, tell them you stop by.
Yeah, I imagine we may stop by on the way back, depending on what happens. But
All right. I think it'll be up there for at least another day or two. Once a few hundred trees are down, I think he'll be headed back and leave the greenlands up there. I was lucky I got to stay down here.
Siegfried sort of like bends down and puts his arm around Bugram and kind of like crouches down so they're whispering. Now Bugram, you haven't seen anything weird going around recently, have you?
No, I left you back in Elderthorn. What are you talking about?
No strange folk from out of town. We ran into some tracks on the way here. Heavy footprints. Maybe a whole party. They went west after a point on the troll run.
Not recently, no. Eashrock's the first people we've seen from Elderthorn, since we opened back up fully.
Has anyone else from Elderthorn been nearby recently?
Not that I know of. The last person... Well, I wasn't in the last group to get here. There was one company behind us that set out. They talked about some miners that were found, but that was the last bit of news that we got on. Something going on with the mines?
2 miners ran into the bed end and went missing, and we found them, fortunately dead.
Hopefully it was a quick death. Mines are dangerous. Do you want me to, when your dad comes back through, do you want me to let him know to hang around for you before he heads back home?
Yeah, that would help.
All right. I'll tell him to stick around before he packs up.
Sure, and I would also ask no half elves with weird tattoos.
No, I haven't seen any half elves. Other than sort of looks around. Other than that one, gestures towards Willem. Other than the ones that are supposed to be up here.
Yeah, you said Willem? Hello?
Well,
It's I, Willem!
well, Bugrun, I don't mean to be cryptic, but we can't tell you exactly what's going on, but...
Come on, some news would be great. What's going on?
Bad
Come on.
stuff, Bugrun. Be careful.
Can't sort of clicks his tongue at y'all. You can't just tell me, oh, be careful, bad stuff's happening, but then not tell me what bad stuff's.
Well, at least... Well, did you hear that Lander was murdered?
Fucking Lander's dead. He's a good man.
Left out in the town square with his guts spilling out.
Sort of tries to clear his throat for a moment. Sort of no sound comes up. That sounds unpleasant.
Well, we've inherited that case, and the things we found are much worse than that murder. If you catch my drift.
That Sounds nasty. Yeah. Never mind. I shouldn't have asked.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm telling you. Just
Sort
be
of.
careful.
It's sort of sour burps for a moment. Alright.
I describe the tattoos of the half elves to him. If you see anyone with weird tattoos, just be careful.
Got it. I'll when your dad comes back, before he packs up his caretaker's supplies, I'll let him know to stick around for you.
And if you're sending anyone in the woods, perhaps take a spear or two.
Sounds like good, reasonable advice that we definitely already do.
Good, good. I mean, I'm not a logger. I don't know these things.
No, there's bears out there, man.
True, true.
Especially this time of the year, they're hungry.
I mean, usually I just turn into a wolf and talk to them. But anyways,
Well, don't turn into a bear, because we'll stab you.
so what time of day is it right now?
By the time that you've had this conversation into the camp, probably about noon.
Okay, well, I asked Aeolus, the foreman won't be back for about another day. You want to just keep going to the witch while we still have sunlight?
So, Siegfried, your father doesn't work as the foreman here. He works as the winter caretaker.
Oh, okay, all right.
So he's doing his last bits of work, which is
Okay.
making sure that they're ready for the spring by having a field cleared. And then he'll be returning home for the spring, summer, and fall. He won't come back until mid-fall.
Well, so it seems to me that if we were planning to stop by Siegfried's on the way back, that we may run into him, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Bugrun said that he would ask him to stay around for a day or two, but who knows if he will actually listen or not.
I mean, either or. I was actually looking to speak to Hale about a about a commission piece.
Emil is the one that works at the smithy.
Yeah, they would be back in Elder's Road. This is Bugram.
Right. Okay.
Bogrim is the one that does the woodworking also. If that's what you were looking for. Emil is the matriarch of the family, and she's the primary smithy.
Yeah, that's the one who, when I went to the Amber Braids to talk about the monster leg being worked on, that she was still out of town.
No, you spoke with Andre at that point,
Yeah.
and he said he would bring it up to her. And the one out of town is Bugram, because he's working here. He's the one that does all of their woodworking and like making scabbards and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, then Aeolus, having a better memory than me, would pipe up. Roughly what time would you be available to speak business?
After sunset, once the work's done for the day. If you're coming back by tomorrow, around the same time, but while the sun's up, we gotta be working.
Right. Okay.
Moving thousands of pounds of wood tends to get dangerous when it gets dark, so we usually stop about then. But we gotta use as much light as we can.
Makes sense. We can continue on our way, Siegfried.
Nobody here. You know where I'm at.
All right,
See you.
Bugram. Hopefully, we'll see you in about a day or so.
Sounds good. You sticking around the logging camp? He's leaving. He has to go back to work. But what is the group you doing? Are you trying to stay here for the rest of the day, or make the few miles journey to the west?
I think we're just gonna head west, right, Aeolus?
That's what I would recommend.
Yep.
Aeolus would return to Hunin and ask.
Well, I think we should better get business over with, and if you wanna take or see your father or whatever, we can come back here later, Bagram. I wanna ask the hag what's going on and get a bigger picture. I think that's more important now.
Yeah, sounds good.
I agree.
Who said hag? No one has said hag.
Literally only done in.
Yeah.
And
All right.
is the hag now.
I'm pretty sure Mayor Teidel was a hag, but who knows?
Dunnan just calls every lady hag.
All ladies.
Everyone's a hag. All right. The traveling from Lisette is a difficult, about 5-6 miles, a few leagues to the west. You're gaining altitude, noticeably as you go. The trail is mostly a game trail that seems to lead in this direction, and there's a few sections that are difficult to undergo. One in particular where you sort of have to scale about 10 feet of vertical stone before finding the trail again. But it passes. I'd like to make all of you to make a Constitution saving throw, please. DC 7.
Oh boy, here we go. Hiya! Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that on advantage.
All good. That's all right. Only Aeolus got a level of exhaustion for a very low DC.
Every time. You know what? I'm taking resilient
That's-
next week.
Oh my god, man.
I don't think Aeolus has succeeded on a single con save. this
He
year.
is
No,
not.
I haven't.
No, he always gets exhausted. So
I'm an old man. It's okay.
You're now up for some morning practice with me. I mean, you're a
About-
soldier of the watch.
about a half hour before sunset, the group of you have been approaching this sort of large sheer cliff face that sort of makes sort of a narrow valley, and almost it feels like a dead end that this game trail sort of leads down. And you can clearly see like the indication of steady travel, if not heavy traffic, that leads to this. As you come into the clearing, about 100 feet by 200 feet deep, there's small vegetable garden sort of set that's tilled soil, and things are just starting to sprout along this one side of it. The trail itself leads around the side of the clearing to a squat cabin, tall roofs, steepled and arched in such a way that from sort of bent beams of wood lashed together with vines, ropes, and the like. The roof itself is covered in lichens and mosses that are growing and probably used to insulate part of the structure entirely. There's a small platform upon which everything's built upon stilts, not more than a foot in height, sort of used to level out the ground upon which this home is built, and thick grasses are sort of sprouting from underneath it. You imagine what types of creatures might call underneath the home, underneath this structure, their own home. There's a sort of patio out front of a few large slate stones that's sort of been turned on their side to give a somewhat flat area the ability to not have things growing upon it that sort of turn into a rough-hewn set of wood steps, no railing, leading to a door. Door is about 5 feet in height and has beautiful set of carvings upon it. The whole area exudes this green, cozy space, and there's a thin trail of smoke going up out of one of the chimneys, and a soft bit of light coming from a rounded window along one side that you can see.
Siegfried will go up and knock on the door.
One moment, please. About a minute passes. You hear a few sounds from inside before opening the door sort of outwards. You have to step back off of the porch area onto the slated patio space in front of it. As the door opens outwards, you see the blinking red eyes and telltale obsidian skin of a drow elf, sort of looking around. Hello. Looks young for her age. She doesn't look, by human standards, more than 28, 29. But by elven standards, that could be a very different number of years. She's looking. Hello. Please. Sort of looks inside and looks at the group. Yeah, I have space. Come in. What's bringing you up this way?
I imagine Siegfried has to bend down quite a bit.
To get underneath the door frame, yeah. She's short. She still has to sort of duck a little bit to get underneath about the 5-foot door frame. But it's a tight squeeze through the door. But the interior of the area is actually quite spacious. And the ceilings are very high. It's just the door itself.
You have a wonderful house.
Thank you.
Inviting us in.
I'll put some tea on. Who are all of you, if you don't mind me asking? Not that I don't mind visitors.
We are the Bloody Maddox, and we come here at the request of Captain Storm Surge from Eldersorn. You might know him. He sent us here. And we brought some gifts, and Dannen will give her the soap and the candles.
Oh, thank you. Just smells them. It's
I put the Dutch oven down and
pleasant. You didn't need to do that. She sort of takes her silver hair and sort of ties it back into like this messy, large braid.
Well, honestly, we weren't sure exactly who we were meeting, so we wanted to make sure we started off on the right foot.
I kind of expected something different, sorry to be so honest. But I'm pleasantly surprised.
Ellerast will take out the shawl and shake it out and drape it over her shoulders. It's lavender, fine wool, embroidered with roses on the edges.
I love it. Thank you. Hopefully the weather continues to warm slightly, and I won't need it too much, but it'll be nice on those cold mornings. She goes about setting a heavy kettle over a cook fire.
Well, the reason we are here is...
I'm Toadtooth. Pleasure to meet you, and you all are?
my name's Dannen Firebeard.
Dannen?
This here is Siegfried, the big guy you see here. The little one behind me is Willem. And the tough orc here is Helivrest, and the guy there is Eolas.
I recognize the symbol of the watch upon some of you. You said you were here on Storm Surge. Is there orders? I know that
Oh,
voyage
yes.
was better than to try ordering me about.
Well,
Is a general
there were
idea of what she looks
some
like.
dark happenings in and around Elder Zone, and he was hoping that you could tell us more about the history of Droucia and this land and what might go on here.
Also, we've been running into some strange arcane phenomenon, and at least I was hoping you might have some insight regarding that.
Might. Do you have any examples of what phenomenon you've been running into?
Oh, I asked.
You're familiar with the Pinwood? Oh, sorry.
Oh no. Sure. Go first on it.
You are familiar with the Pinwood east to Elderthorn?
I am. Yes.
Well, we were visiting an old family member of Hellevirest, and on the way back we were ambushed by some, I don't want to call them wolves, but they pretty much looked like wolves, but they were very different from wolves. When we cut them and slashed them, they oozed out some black goop that also attacked and corroded our weapons, and the same black goop also comes out if we cut trees in the Pinwood.
I'm familiar with the blight, yes. But
Blight?
It's the same blight that's been with the Pinwood for
much
longer.
Have you heard of the blight existing in living beings? I mean, creatures, not trees.
Eolus, do you still have this leg from the big creature that attacked us? This pincer or piercer, I don't know what we call it.
I have almost every piece of the skeleton and the chitin that I can carry.
That was actually one of the reasons Storm Surge sent us to you. I take out one of the chitinous pieces if Aeolus hands it to me.
Yep.
We keep running into situations where, it's happened now 3 times. Once with a strange creature who had these legs. Once, and then once more with a halfling, and once more with a human. But actually, with 3 people, because it was out of character. It was the bat, it was Mayor Teidel, and the doctor, right? That all died that way.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 humanoids and a creature. I'll say that after they died, their body
wasted away. Yeah, very quickly. Very unusual.
Without any smell or sign of decay. It's like simply their flesh just melted off the body and turned to dust.
In a matter of minutes.
She pours some of the tea for each of you and herself as she's listening. Okay. What else do you have so far?
Well, the mayor that Siegfried spoke of was a practitioner of some dark arts, it seems. And we are unsure. She was trying to perform a ritual, and one of her components seemed to be a human heart.
I sort of turn towards you. A ritual involving a heart?
Seemed like they were trying to summon something into existence. The ritual included an infant's heart covered in salt, the weapons we believe that was used in a murder, and then Siegfried will produce the blue sapphire. And this sapphire seems to have some kind of orcish runes written in it.
She holds out her hand. May I see the runes?
I'm not sure if you want to touch. When I touched it, I saw a vision. So just be careful. And I gently drop it in her hand.
She takes it, so cradles it slightly. It's large in her hands, very thin fingers. She sort of, please help yourselves to the tea. I don't have any sugar, but it should be quite good. And she sips it. She holds up the sapphire and sort of looks through it towards the cook fire to sort of illuminate it. Okay. Settle in. You said you had a vision when you held this. Could you describe that to me?
Well, I saw the mountains, but it wasn't a side of the mountains I've ever seen before. There was a desert and mountains, and then there appeared to be some sort of big furrow that led into the earth, and there was some writing, but I can't remember it. It only lasted for an instant.
Okay.
I've only ever heard of deserts and stories, you know?
I think I have some answers that I might be able to provide to you.
There's also one more detail I wanted to add.
Yes, please.
This creature, I turned to the needle monster. I don't know about the humanoids because I wasn't able to do thorough, but I had the detect magic spell up as this creature was dying, and when it was alive, it wasn't connected to the weave. It was only in death it became reconnected to everything, basically. When it was alive, it was simply just a blank space.
I understand. Let me tell you all a story. We'll start there. And let's take our mid-session break at this point. It's 48 right now. We'll call about 7 minutes. Back on 55.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, man, I already ran to the restroom, too. Oh, well.
All right, let's
Yeah, sorry. The
get back
first part
into
of the
it.
interaction, I ran to the restroom, so I missed it.
No worries.
My burrito hit quick, and I dropped my headphones and ran.
It's
So it turns out that she is a young-ish,
Young looking.
yeah,
Drow.
drow.
Yeah, I got from the picture.
All right. So, as the group of you settle in to hear Matron Totu's story, she begins. Sip from her tea. Firstly, know that time is a fickle but constant companion to all. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Those you call your elders down there in the village are but babes, and are much too young to recall anything. Even still, it isn't the pup's fault that it does not know how to talk. There aren't writings on some of this, I can promise you that. Anyway, let me tell you this story. Before this land was known as Ikwan, when it was the only known part of the world, and Stormstring Isles were considered the edge of the sea, our tale begins. During this time, there was a burgeoning country to the north of here, beyond the sands of bleached bone, in a region known as Garden Steppe. It was fertile beyond belief due to its natural geography, and naturally defended against enemies. Great rivers flow there still, and the impassable sands to the south created a guard on many sides. A series of huge lakes provided fish and fresh water. Lush grasses and seasonal forests gave the ecology of the region diverse flora and fauna. Truly a paradise, if ever there was one. The peoples here were proud and strong. The tribes unified over long decades, and formed the first and only true country ever to call Ikwan home. However, their subjection extended beyond what were once separate tribes. The land itself was brought to heel. Forests cleared for farmland. Streams diverted to fill pools in their capital. Wild game was slowly but surely being overhunted, and more and more tribes abandoned their nomadic nature in favor of this new style of living. It didn't take many years before your kin, she looks over towards you, Helarast, had aspirations of an empire beyond this step. Out of need or greed, no one's quite sure. But out they went. Takes another sip of her tea. Beyond the rivers, past the sands, stretching from sea to sea, conquering and subjugating as they went. Their network eventually stretched far and wide, some say even beyond the cloud-spined mountains, in which we now lay in the shadow. They had settlements upon every coast, and even begun settling the Stormstring. However, as I said, time is not a friend. The sun was setting on them. Your kin, she looks towards you again, Helarast, abhorred the idea that the kami might have had an opinion on how the land was spent. No civilization collapse happens in an instant, but rather these things die by a series of hundreds of small cuts. They were bled until naught but nomadic tribes remained, fractured. One of the prevailing theories is that the kami attacked what was known as their henge network. The speed of trade and communication was necessary for them to function, and without it, well, history turned to legend. Legend to myth, and eventually all of their histories were lost to the aforementioned fickle mistress. This is where this comes in. She sort of holds up the sapphire. The inscriptions were made by an arcanist. The method has been lost. No one's not quite sure how. But this is something that enabled the large henge network and ease of communication. I never suspected to see one of the Bodmal stones. Sort of trails off for a moment. Very few know of their existence, and fewer still know the true purpose in history. The Bodmals, sometimes referred to as bodes, were used to power a means of travel, far faster than by foot. Imagine traveling hundreds of leagues in a few mere days. She takes a long draught of her tea and stands up. Follow me for a moment. Goes outside.
Aeolus stands to follow.
I think everybody does, yeah.
Major Toadtooth leads the group of you outside and through a trail along the far side of her home to a sheer section of rock wall. Looking up, you can see the wall extends about 80 feet before more gentle slope sort of rejoins the rising elevation of the mountain. Set against the wall of stone is two monoliths, leaning against one another, their backs flat against the stone, forming a triangle with the ground that stands proud of the wall by about a foot. There's a thick covering of mosses and lichens upon the stones. Creepers cover the otherwise dirt and rock ground. Inscribed upon the monoliths are a series of glyphs and runes, which none of you recognize at first glance, partially due to the obstruction caused by the growth. At the apex of the two angled monoliths, an indentation is ringed by a smaller set of carvings that resemble that of a starburst. There! As she points at the indentation. The Bodmal stone needs to be set there, and as long as everything is intact, the henge should activate. And you could be the first people in hundreds of years to travel faster than the wind.
But where
And
would it take
where
us?
would we wind up?
I have no idea.
Oh, great.
Are there any markings or anything like that written on the monoliths? Or are they just plain stone?
Nope, you can get closer. There are inscriptions upon the monoliths.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'd ask Halaras to come with me too, because a lot of this stuff seems to be written in like ancient Orcish. But do I recognize any of the markings on there?
Give me a history check. And Helaras, you can give me a check with advantage, please.
Okay.
Before I go up, I'm gonna enhance ability up myself as well.
Okay.
The intelligence one, Fox's cunning.
Okay.
This seems important. Still not that great.
Okay. Hellrast. The characters are orcish. A lot of it doesn't translate accurately from what you're looking at. So you gather their meanings might have changed over time. And like the way that they would be pronounced in your tongue, even in Orcish, would not make sense with known words that you recognize. But almost like a German speaker reading French. Like they know what each sound the symbol makes, but put them together, they make no word in German when you're looking at a French word.
Right.
As you're sort of looking at it, the only one that sort of phrase that translates accurately or into something that you recognize is the word Urchypt. UR''KRYPT. And that translates into common as hearth home.
Okay.
It's the only one that you recognize amongst everything. Really well.
Let's got something.
Mm-hmm.
So this sounds like a more of a blessing and an establishment rather than a curse.
Correct. Yeah, it doesn't appear to be any type of curse or anything like that. It appears to be carvings. Like without knowing like how the language was constructed at that point when it was made, it's a fair shot in the dark. Other than this one word that's sort of thrown you.
How
go ahead, Aeolus.
how is that one word spelled again?
Sure, I'll put it in chat. Or crypt. Siegfried, you had something?
Oh no, I was wondering if I could do like an Arcana check or something and see if I could get an inkling of how this might work. How the stone might work with it.
Certainly.
Like, is this stone
You
like
can
a source
try.
of energy or something like that?
You can make an Arcana check.
Yeah.
Certainly try.
Because he'll just talk out loud like you said this stone was specifically made for this door, but
From my understanding, they're made to power the hinges. I'm not sure if they're unique key to lock situation.
So it could potentially be used to power something else.
Or at the very least, another hinge. Although I've not found any others in my time.
Do the stones here have any similarity to the altar that we found the stone in?
They do not. No.
Okay.
These look to be made out of like old granite. As opposed to the altar, which was made seemingly out of the surrounding stone, which was mostly slate and lime.
Okay.
There doesn't appear to be any like indicative markings in the indentation that would like line up with certain grooves or cracks or shaping on the Bodemall stone that Matron Toadtooth's still holding. Gives you the indication that it seems like as long as one of them's placed in it, it would probably fit. Like you don't get the sense of any type of like only one key to one lock type of thing.
Okay, so like any stone like this could potentially work on any gate like this, as far as we know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll ask the matron. Has anyone used this gate since you've been here?
No. I didn't think I would ever see one of these. She holds up the stone. I took this land for myself years ago because of the curiosity that this was. But until you produced this and I got to examine it, I didn't think that it would ever be anything more than, truthfully, a garden decoration.
If we plan to travel through this, we should probably rest.
I think we should head back to the camp too and try to get my father to send word back to the town, before we just disappear. Well, yeah, seems like we have to go through.
Before you start sending word back to the town, this henge, she gestures at the wall, is on my land. Now, if you want to utilize it and send word back to the town before they start boot stomping over my gardens, to utilize it, I will allow them. as long as they don't disturb me or my property. I'll even allow them to lay in a road, such that horses will be able to approach, though I fear it might be too narrow for regular carts. And
If
I'll keep the 5 of you informed of any other such henges I find or hear rumored. Although, don't hold your breath.
when we send word back, I don't think it's smart to mention the henge just yet.
That's fair.
Yeah, all I was gonna say is that we were going on an extended journey. That we would be out of contact for a while. That's all I
Isn't
was
there-
telling him.
I mean, we shouldn't waste any more time. I mean, should we really just go back and then come back here? I mean, we are wasting precious time. Is there not any other way to let them know? Like sending I don't know, a bird with a letter or...
I don't know if those things will be secure.
I have a raven you can send.
I really would
Eh?
just like to speak to my father as well before we left. But
Well, if something like this has been inactive for such a long time, for us to gather ourselves and approach this properly, I don't think half a day or a rest would impede upon what's happening.
I mean, do you really think it has been inactive for decades? I mean, Teidel had a stone like this, so she must have been using it, right? I mean,
Well-
what other purpose would she have done with it?
I
I
have
mean,
no idea where someone would get a stone like this. This is not
I mean,
written about previously.
and this is only a power source. It's not specific to one thing. You could potentially work for a lot of different things like this.
It should work for multiple would be able to be placed in multiple henges.
Or not even henges, that strange altar we found it on. It was powering something there.
would you be able to make heads or tails of this? And Aeolus will pull the book out from the undercroft
Sort of
and hand it
parses
over.
through it. This is the one that's now blank.
Yes. There were things written in it, but the moment that I opened it, they vanished. It was like the characters shrank out of view.
No, the only. I mean, that sounds like an enchantment designed to prevent you from reading something. What did some of the characters look like?
It was a language I wasn't able to recognize. Old. We've run into a series of inscription and characters along our way.
Willem has a couple in his journal.
Do you? She turns her gaze to you, Willem. May I? Willem AFK.
You're muted, Bill. If you don't realize, you might be AFK.
He ran away.
Coffee.
Oh, good. We'll assume Willem shows her some of the symbols that he has copied down.
Just anyway, I'm sorry, my stomach's killing me right now.
Oh, good. So she wants to see some of the symbols that you've written down in your book.
I would begrudgingly, because I don't know her well, take out the book and flip to the pertinent pages and hand it off to her.
Flips page back and forth. This is known as Old Tongue. It's not really spoken anymore. Was a language of the ley lines of magic throughout Equan. Seemingly, most understandings predating even your people, as she looks at Hellarest. Not very many people can still recognize or speak it.
What do you mean by language of the ley lines?
There's a great many powers in Equan. Not just... She gestures out of the woods. Not just those which you see and those which you feel, but... tendrils and sparks of magical essence that spiderweb and burrow through the ground. They could be tapped upon and drawn on, or used as means of conveyance or correspondence. And you would need Old Tongue to adequately utilize it. I'm not sure of the true name of the language. No one is, but it's just gotten that name over time.
So does that mean that this language could be used to manipulate powers of the ley line? Is that how it got the name?
Maybe. It's a lot of theory. But at the very least, it would be used to be able to evoke magical abilities.
Right.
Such as you might have your own words and your own tongues for whenever you call upon the weave of magic.
I unroll a map of the region. Where is the nearest ley line around here?
I have no idea.
Okay. So
Yeah.
even you don't know. Okay.
There are currents that run through the ground, through the world. Not visible, but just as you bring forth, maybe any of you might be able to bring forth magical abilities from within yourselves. Old Tongue would be used to bring forth magical abilities from elsewhere. Not just within you, but drawn through this weave, not the weave, this network of energy.
If you need a language to interact with that energy,
Aye.
is it implied that this energy may be sentient? As a personality or will to be communicated with?
It's not an unreasonable assertion. It would merit further research.
This is giving me a headache now.
Just now? I had a headache for the whole conversation.
I believe you, Master Dwarf. So,
It's too much for
to,
my little dwarf brain.
to the core of the matter, though, the Old Tongue notwithstanding. Curious that you've seen some. As I said, the henge is on my land. In exchange for your utilization, from now and in the future, I ask that we place this, she holds the bold millstone, into this henge, such that I might also have the ability to utilize it as well, whenever I deign to do so.
I think that's fair enough, but we won't be doing it until we get back. Is that acceptable?
Do you promise not to remove it while we are on the other side of the gate?
I have no desire to remove it. I want... If this gets powered by the Bone Millstone, that opens more areas of the world.
Well, I think then it can be agreed upon.
We will be back in about a day or so, and we will activate the henge.
He flicks her fingers, and you see the Bodemel stone floating over to the henge. We've struck a bargain. And she pushes it with her ability, and as it sort of floats over, it just sort of clicks into the alcove. Nothing happens for a long moment. And then spiderwebbing out from the center of the Bodemel stone, this sapphire sort of glows from the deep blue that it starts into this sort of sky blue, illuminating the now darkened grove that's gotten darker during the time that the group of you have spoken with her, shedding light for a moment before the runes along the sides of the henge light up in a quick arc, streaking down to either side and then twisting around the columns as they go back up to the main area. From the apex of the triangle, where the two monoliths sort of meet, where the Bodemel stones now set into it, a thin thread sort of trails downwards slowly, like a spider extending its silk, and gently wafting back and forth until it impacts the ground, at which point it fans open, one thread becoming 2, becoming 4, becoming 8, until there is a gently weaving curtain of just little fairy lights suspended upon hundreds, maybe thousands of threads that sort of just dangle like a beaded curtain within the center of this triangle, shedding a dim light throughout the space. It will be here when you come back.
Thank you, matron.
When you go through, be careful. But I'm curious what you will find.
How easy is it to remove?
I don't know. You go up and try to remove it. It's about 8 feet in height. The apex.
Not yet, no.
Okay.
We'll worry about the removal after we have done our investigation at the other end of the gate.
Patron, would you mind
yes.
if I camped out here?
By all means.
The
Stay away
rest
from my
of you-
vegetables.
Right. The rest of you can return to the logging camp.
I'd rather stay here too,
I'm not going anywhere.
if you don't mind.
I can make the trek and come back.
You're still several hours journey from the logging camp. Like, you won't get there until close to 10 or 11 at night if you sit out at this point.
Sigrid just sighs. It's all right. We don't need to go back. You can just use your raven.
Well, if you would like to speak to your father, we don't know where this is taking us.
Okay, I mean,
But
you guys are willing to wait for me.
I also don't want you to go alone. If it is a full day of travel, I'd rather a majority of the group head with you.
You guys get that handout also?
Yeah, thank you.
I also rather have this, and I point to the gate. Have this protected, because we don't know what has been stirred up by activating the gate. I mean, who knows about those landlines and whatever you talked about? What this also activated?
Well,
The ancient wizard Alexander Graham Bell and his landlines.
well, it's
The
partially
ley
why.
lines.
Oh, good.
It's partially why I offered to stay here. I also would like to know as much as I can, and to
Why?
pick the matron's brain about a few more things.
It's your call, Siegfried.
I don't think I should travel back alone, so we can just send the Raven.
To where? Lisette? Or back to the village? No, sorry, Elderthorn. I'm not used to calling it by that name. Sorry.
Can you do one and then the other?
Well, over a few days, I only have the one raven.
That's fine, but first to the logging camp and then to Elderthorn. To the logging camp, tell them that we're not heading back. We're going
There-
on.
Have
quite a long
something.
journey.
Write something down here.
Yeah, I write it down. I just say, we're heading into the wilderness. Don't know when we'll be back. Don't wait up for us. And then, yeah. Then I write the same to Elder Thorn, basically.
Anyone else sending anything back to Elderthorn as writing?
No.
Yeah, Hellerast will send a quick note to Gogron.
Okay.
On Siegfried's note, if Siegfried would allow me to, are we writing this to Storm Surge?
I mean, Siegfried wasn't going to write any details about what we found just yet. I would just say tell Storm Surge to send someone he trusts to the matron. There's something there. Yeah. Someone needs to go there right now. That's basically all you would say.
I wouldn't send anyone here.
Okay.
Especially with that large group of tracks that we weren't able to track.
Oh yeah, I would write in at least in a letter about the tracks that we found and where they met for the Troll Run River.
Chorrel Run.
Yeah.
And that
Chorrel. Not troll.
Troll.
And that we will be absent for a time.
But probably not. Like, even with magic, I'm not sure they'll be able to contact us. But, yeah.
This is true. Hopefully there's allies wherever we're going.
No.
Hopefully there is some action wherever we're going.
Here is the spelling and pronunciation for the Bodmal stones also.
Yes.
Bodhmall. Pronounced
God
Bodmal.
Damn it.
How close were you?
Oh, matron, is it all right if we camp out here?
Yeah,
I
please,
spelled
have
it
at it.
exactly how it sounds.
Please enjoy. Don't touch my vegetables. We've struck an accord. The deal will stand.
Is
No.
there more of this tea? It was quite delicious.
She looks up at the sky. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Come here.
And are we away from the others? But she hands me over the tea.
Yeah, she, as you follow her back to her hut, she hands you a small pouch. Yeah, that'll cover you and your friends for evening and maybe one other.
Oh,
Don't let it seep too long.
much appreciated. And I look around to see if everybody can hear me, and then
No,
whisper.
you're like 100 feet away. And around a corner.
I'm really great, you know, the hag. I'm kind of scared of witches, but he anxiously looks around. Don't tell the others, all right? It's a little secret. And why do they call you Toadtooth? I'm quite curious.
It's a name that's picked up over a great many years. And, I mean, witches aren't the worst thing in the world. Just be careful who you go about accusing. Enjoy your tea.
Right. Thank you very much. I'll go back to the others. Let's get ready for the night, then, shall we?
I'm assuming you turned
Tomorrow-
over the 2 pieces of parchment for her to send out.
Yeah.
Noted. Okay. Anything that evening?
I would like to ritually cast detect magic, on the monolith. See if I.
A heavy aura of conjuration magic.
Is it similar to the altar?
No. So the altar had an aura of conjuration magic initially due to the presence of the stone.
Okay.
Because it was in that same vicinity.
Okay. The aura was coming from the stone,
From
not
the
altar.
stone.
Okay.
That strength and like clear like registering of like, oh, that's definitely conjuration. It's like when you sort of see colors and you're like, oh, maybe that could be a blue, maybe that could be a green, and you're sort of not sure. That's sort of where it was previously. You're like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is conjuration. Now it is like bright yellow in your face, no mistaking it, conjuration magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
Stepping into a room
on
painted
its
canary
own-
yellow everywhere.
on its own, the bone milestone power is anchored in conjuration, but there are ways to manipulate it into other schools of magic.
Seems like that might be the case.
Okay. That's good to know. I send that on to Aeolus as well.
Interesting. I'll be right back. And Aeolus is, before it gets too late, is gonna head back to the matron's hut.
Mhm.
My apologies for bothering you.
You see the lantern sort of illuminate aside as you are speaking from outside the door. What is it?
You have knowledge of these lands.
A great many, yes.
Do you have knowledge of the creatures?
The things that you described, I am not familiar with.
I just meant creatures that are native to this land.
Oh, decent number, yes. Some have changed over the years, but generally, The native fauna, yes.
I am from an order that I was sent here to catalog and to gather information on the creatures and the fauna to see what.
The door sort of opens and she's dressed in night garments and she has a nice looking lavender shawl around her shoulders. Okay. And
I was wondering if I could, when we have the time, gather some information on it, on your knowledge, so that I may catalog it properly.
she looks at you, narrowed eyes for a moment. Heavy red eyes, no irises, just sort of narrowed at you. Look, you're sweet, but you're young. Neither of those are qualities I hold in high regard for people I choose to spend a lot of time with. And passing on my all tradition would take a great deal of time. I do not fancy spending years with you, no offense.
No offense taken. Didn't know it would take years. But,
Took far longer to learn it.
well, if my order is to be established here, then I hope to be able to have you as an ally.
If you ever find yourself at a gap in your knowledge, then maybe you can convince me to help with a specific thing. Bring me parts, bring me creatures, and we can make an exchange of services if you need them to be adequately identified and their uses told to you. But I have no interest in teaching you a full codices on everything.
Understood. And Aeolus will turn around and will make his way back to their camp.
Just watch as you go for a moment and shuts her door again. As the group of you settle in, bed rolls out, tends up for your rest in the shadow of the Cloud Spine Mountains. Is there anything else?
See,
Conan.
go ahead.
Oh,
Yes.
Aeolus would just ask if Dunnan would like to spar so that he can get at least some sort of action.
I'm gonna push you hard, my friend, if you want. Let's start with, let's say a 5-mile jog. Just to get the blood flowing, you know?
Just jog for the next hour in circles around the clearing.
David would try and write a song using the story that the matron told us.
Certainly. Make me a performance check. It's not about proficiency with instrument, more about putting the things together. You feel like there's something there, but trying to figure out some rhymes, and the rhymes aren't coming to you quite yet. You know there's something.
Yeah, he's basically just trying to make it so people won't forget the story, hopefully, but it's not ready yet.
Anything for you over the evening, Willem? Or Hillarest?
Hilaras is just gonna make some arrows for her short bow with those two spikes.
One spike is big enough to make an arrow for the short bow. The other one's about the sized adequately for a javelin or spear tip. It's a little bit large.
Okay.
Large for an arrow.
Okay. So yeah, whatever they're best meant for.
Okay. Yeah. Make me a. Make me just a straight intelligence check.
Okay.
There you go. Your spear, from being a member of Blackburn Watch, they normally have a small steel-tipped pommel to them, such that the butt of the spear isn't destroyed as like it's stuck into the ground while on guard, or when it's set against a charge or something like that.
Right.
Over the course of the evening, you are able to adequately affix this sort of barb over top of that steel, like very blunted steel spiked pommel, onto the spear itself, such that you could now use it to sort of try to hook or trip potentially, and you feel like your spear would probably float based on the approximate weight.
Okay.
Because the barb does sort of hook back up towards the main half of the spear, because it is pronged.
Sounds good.
Not pronged, barbed. Let me grab a little drawing tool. You guys are on the right map. Like the barbs sort of look like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you attach it to the haft of your spear. It's not like quite large enough to be like a full spear head, but definitely form the other end of spear pommel and stuff. And you feel like
making
that could
it
probably
more like a pike.
Yeah, correct. You feel like it could probably be used to sort of hook legs or sort of hold on to like a large branch up high or something. Like you could use it to sort of grab onto things pretty securely, and the way that you affix it, you feel that even like if you put your weight on it by like sort of hanging it on a branch and then lifting yourself up by holding the haft of the spear, it probably would not pop off the end.
Right. Okay. That's all she does.
Okay. As the group of you retire to a evening, you watch as Had the stars wheel overhead. The faint shimmering of this light beaded curtain within the henge being a constant light with you, other than the firelight, over the course of the evening. Presently, the next morning will break. The person who finishes watch in the morning is usually Siegfried. Siegfried, you hear first daybreak, the cawing of a raven, followed by the fluttering of wings. You put together what happened. But other than that, your morning is undisturbed.
Yeah, I'd start waking everyone up and breaking camp.
Aeolus, you can remove your level of exhaustion.
It's only going to be put back on there and super soon.
Gotta get that resilient.
Yeah. Okay. What are you doing for the day?
And would definitely have woken you up early to go for another round.
Good.
Come on!
No.
You can rest later.
Ah, yes, when we step to the other side of that.
Yes, then your blood is all worked up.
My blood is worked up just being around all of you.
Good.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, Aeolus. Are you ready to go wherever this is gonna lead us? Probably certain
Yes,
death,
Oh boy.
let's do it.
misery, blood sacrifices.
Okay.
Alright.
Who's taking the lead?
I think Siegfried would.
Okay. You you take a quick glance around, make sure all of your stuff has been packed correctly, you're not leaving a mess on Matron Toadtooth's land. Even though you guys did secure a deal for her to allow them to put in a road if and when you decide to alert Elderthorn about this. One by one, you step through the curtain. Feels like stepping through a cool waterfall of just gently flowing air. Sort of runs over your body, giving an involuntary shiver as you step through. As you blink from stepping out of the green light that you were in from the canopy of the forests around Toadtooth's home, your eyes have difficulty adjusting as you step into bright, direct sunlight and onto orangish yellow sands.
Can I check something really quick when I come out?
Certainly. Firstly, however, as all of you step through, you all immediately gain a level of exhaustion. Aeolus.
You're right.
You had no idea how
this
right
is
you were.
God damn it!
When I look at the sky, is it the same sky we came from?
It is still blue sky. There are now 0 clouds in the sky, though.
Okay.
There were previously some clouds.
Has any time passed at all? Is the sun still in the same?
Sun still seems to be in the same position, although you're no longer covered by trees, so you're getting direct beams.
But in terms of time, this was pretty instantaneous.
It seems to be.
Okay.
As your eyes finally start to adjust, the direct light is not something a lot of you are used to. You live in a fairly wooded area, and the last bit of time you've spent either at night traveling through the Pinwood where things are incredibly dense, or up the Chorrel Run where things are fairly dense. You're not used to direct open sunlight, and then all of that light's then reflecting up off of the sand. So your eyes are all watering at this point, and you all feel this lethargy set into your muscles and your bones as you are transported in this manner. Once your eyes finally adjust, you find yourselves in a ruined square of a town. Dozens of structures are collapsed and crumbling around you. The only bit of elevation in the space nearby, there appears to be a large, massive slab of stone, maybe hundreds of feet in diameter, off to one side, upon which there's another collection of ruins. You look around, standing behind you, there is a triangular henge with an empty alcove at the apex of it. Looking through this henge, you see within the square itself, there are 7 other triangular henges. All of them empty.
Can we see the mountain ranges anywhere?
Give me a perception check. Disadvantage.
How hot is it at the moment?
Blistering.
Cool. Aeolus is gonna work on taking his breastplate off.
Okay. Siegfried, a few things. So, you look out towards the horizon, sort of gauging where the sun is by where it hurts to look the most, and then adjust your vision. You do see a mountain range. It's to your west. It's on the far side of this sort of large plateau of stone that rises a little bit to the point. Let me grab a little measuring tool. So mountains are here, and then it seems like there's a plateau here, and then you guys are in a clearing like right here. Obviously, mountains aren't to scale. So like you see this space here, which is a little bit higher up, which also has ruins on it. And then beyond that, far off to the west, you see mountain range.
Yeah, Siegfried is going to start in his journal sketching like a rudimentary map. Like, say, the village is here, the mountain is to the west.
Certainly.
Just getting some details about the location around us.
Pull out your journal and look back up and start sketching.
Yeah.
As you're starting to work on this, and you hear Aeolus working on some buckles, and you get the mountain range. You see a form sort of walking slowly along the edge of this plateaued area up
guys,
ahead of you.
We got incoming.
It's not coming towards the group. It's just walking to the side very slowly. Like maybe
something moving out there.
Like for context, like maybe 5-10 feet around. It's not a very slow. It's not a very fast walk. It's just sort of plodding along, side to side.
Yeah, I point that out to everyone. You see that over there?
You see it. It vanishes. You see another thing sort of sort of climb up over one of the ruins. Humanoid looking in form. It sort of crawls over the ruins, sort of like Gollum. And then as it gets over the edge where like its backside would then be above it, it just sort of tumbles and falls. Out of sight. This is all in the upper area up there.
How far away from us are they right now?
A couple 100 feet, probably. Easy to see because of the light. And you do have a lot of half-ruined buildings in between you and there.
Do they seem to notice us?
Doesn't seem like it. There's no indication that anything has noticed you.
The buildings like really just rubble or buildings that still stand?
No, buildings that still stand. This isn't like weather blasted rubble where barely walls remain. Like there's still buildings that have half of a roof, tattered remains of like probably the strongest threads of pieces of fabric. Very few of them. Exposed beams, walls that are half collapsed in and sort of leaning against another structure next to it that form like a little triangular like cave almost. It's not bombed out, destroyed, but very clearly uninhabited space.
Should we step out of the sun?
Yes, we should get out of this blazing heat or we get roasted. Let's find some cover.
We're not
and
the only
just,
ones in the city right
yeah, keep your eyes about.
I'd like Dunnan, roll me a d20, please. As you make the group over to about a medium-sized building, off to your left, which would be roughly south of where the group is located at the moment, in this square. You pass by a large stone that's sort of set towards the corner of the square. And emblazoned upon the stone is a bunch of writing that, as you pass by one after another, Hellerast, you recognize the language. It is Orcish written upon the stone.
Is it more modern? Or is it still the ancient language?
You recognize the one word written upon the stone as Urcrypt.
Okay.
We'll pick up there next session.
Okay.